I'll give you a clue. It was Grimsby.
They are pressing quite well. What's happened there? You've got to be joking.
Oh, sorry, no, I've done it the wrong way around. I've drawn an arrow. I haven't seen it. Sorry.
He must have a horseshoe up his ass.
If we're playing on professional and that's happening for Barcelona,
2 years ago. Sorry about that. I don't know what that was.
I'm sorry, that's just put me off the game. I'm not having that.
Anyway, segue, moving on.
What has that got to do with football? Why is that at a football ground? Hello and welcome to another episode of the Honest Football Podcast, where we put honesty back into the beautiful game. I'm Charlie Betts, and joining me this week and every week are Craig Savage and Daniel Cody.
Coming up, we've got EFL Non League review, question of the day, and story of the week.
Firstly, obviously everyone at the Honest Football Podcast sends our condolences to all of the people and the families affected by the various tragedies across Premier League football last weekend. But obviously we have got to crack on with our trivial podcast, so how's your week been, lads?
Not too bad. I've got a very linked sort of story. So this week I went back out on my bike following my knee injury, so I've been out cycling. And it just reminded me of a very funny story involving ex-Luton goalkeeper Elliot Justin. Do you remember him?
Justin, yeah.
Did you not do a story about Shane Gore before?
No, I didn't know.
I swear you did.
I'm sure you did.
No.
I was going to say this was the second former Luton goalkeeper. Former Luton backup goalkeeper.
Oh, maybe
It's
it's
just funny.
I thought you did series
Well,
one.
I don't know, it's funny, more ironic. So it's just basically, I cycled up Crawley Green Road, which obviously is a big hill near here.
Very steep.
But I used to cycle to work, and I'll be honest, there was one day I was particularly tired, and instead of cycling up the hill, I walked with my bike.
Nothing wrong with that.
No.
Still exercise?
Exactly. But who happened to drive past me in a very large car? None other than, at the time, Luton goalkeeper Elliot Justin.
Luton reserve goalkeeper.
Well, Luton reserve
Who's
goalkeeper.
now at Dagenham Redbridge.
Yeah, who thought it'd be hilarious to shout out at me, and I'll take out the expletives, cycle you lazy so-and-so.
I was going to say, it would have been very bad.
No, exactly, sorry, yeah. So he was like, cycle you lazy whatever. Obviously thought it was funny. I think he had a couple of mates in the car. I recognised him instantly, only because the week before I'd got free tickets to watch Luton through school and blah, blah, blah. So I knew who it was, and, you know, it was a fairly nice car. A few weeks later, last game of the season, Luton are playing Exeter. I can't remember which season this was, actually.
A couple of seasons ago.
A few seasons ago,
yeah.
First season in League 2, wasn't it?
Cut a long story short, I then got
His
some
last
more.
game, I think.
Yeah, it was actually, yeah, because then they signed the fella from Wimbledon. Going on from that, so with the tickets I got through school were right at the front of the goal, like the end behind the goal where the away fans normally sit, because Exeter had such a small following. You know, they put
get
all
off
the
the
school
old
kids
road
in that.
now, yeah.
But in a nutshell, there you go. That's
First
one
in a
word.
nutshell, there you go.
No,
One.
But Elliot Justin basically flapped it across, and you know, one I thought he should have caught, etc. So at the top of my voice, I tried my best to gain his attention and shout a rather what's the word? Similar shout about, instead of flapping it, you should have caught that, you lazy whatever. He definitely heard me because he sort of looked at me. He obviously didn't recognise me, but it was the only.
He recognised what he said. And
I still maintain to this day he knew the link and he knew exactly who I was, and for that, you know, I've never liked him ever since. But
Well,
you know, I think
another one of Charlie Betts' self-absorbed stuff.
So listen here, Elliot Justin. Let us know.
Tweet
us. Tweet us if you actually remember that.
I bloody do. Anyway, no, have you been up to anything this week?
Rehab's going okay. Obviously with the knee injury that I had and the operation. Got on my exercise bike this time and gone but unlike you being a lazy prick, I've slowly gone on the I've gone very slow and
yeah.
But it's getting there, it's slowly getting
We're
there.
falling apart into personal insults very quickly.
So we start off in the Championship, and there's been another managerial casualty. Cody, one of your favourite teams, Ipswich, have sacked Paul Hurst and replaced him with Paul Lambert.
Yeah, and obviously in last week's episode I said that they were all but down already after losing a relegation 6-pointer earlier in the season. So I've got to eat my words a little bit now, because I know you two have slated me, and lots of Ipswich fans have slated it because of his Norwich collection. But he got double promotions at Norwich. He did a brilliant job.
Yeah.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it's a good move.
There's a lot of work there.
I think he'll keep him up. I'm going to stick my neck on the line now. And
I think it'll keep him up, but I don't think it'll be much more than that.
No, I don't think it's
I think
good.
they'll be up narrowly, which is a good job still.
It does boil back down, to something that we've mentioned before. And we've mentioned with many other clubs, which is they shouldn't have sacked McCarthy to start with.
No,
exactly.
exactly.
What you wish for. It's going to link to many things later in this review.
But what has he done to deserve the Ipswich job, Paul Lambert? What's he done?
I don't know. He did well at Norwich. I mean, he did get them up.
Yeah, but after that.
Oh yeah, Villa. But I mean, let's be honest. Villa's been a poison challenge.
I would argue at Villa, he did well just to keep them up for a couple of years. Stoke, you can't even judge him on because he was there for 10 games and they were already as good as down.
I had a discussion with some obnoxious Villa fans on Twitter about 3 weeks ago about this.
It seems to be a weekly thing for you,
No,
doesn't
it does, honestly.
I think you two
Villa
got vendettas
fans.
on
No,
Twitter.
but the point being is that,
I
you
quite
know...
like Villa.
Well, no, that's what I really like Villa. That's the point what I was trying to make to them. I like them as a club, but the problems they have, although they've come to a head now, have been so deep-rooted that it all started long... I don't even think it started long before Lambert was even there, you know, and it's... He's then maybe been a bit of the fall guy for it. Steve Bruce then also got the chop because of all of that. But I think Villa have been riddled with all sorts of...
Can we mention Remy Gard there?
No, yeah, Remy Gard. No, but honestly, I think that he was... to judge him on his time at Villa would be unfair, personally. I think to judge any manager in the last 3 or 4 years...
What, judging Villa? He's been there for 3 seasons.
Who?
Lambert.
Yeah, and it didn't go down in any of those seasons, which I would argue is a minor miracle.
Yeah.
Based on the
I don't
financial
believe that.
situation.
As I say, given what's actually happened since that, no, I think you're unfair to do that to him.
As you've
I don't
brought up
rate
Villa,
Villa.
can I go on to Villa? Back-to-back defeats under Dean Smith. First against Norwich, who were absolutely flying. We mentioned last week because you were predicting them to go up. But Villa are struggling again. And it just proves...
And here we go.
It proves a little bit more.
No,
It proves a little bit more that it's a deeper problem than the manager, and he has to be given time to fix. They did the same with Di Matteo when they went down from the Premier League, and he got sacked within 3 months. A man who a couple of years earlier had won the Champions League with Chelsea.
So you're looking at that, you've got Paul Lambert, 2 promotions. Steve Bruce promoted with a few teams into the Premier League.
4 promotions.
4 promotions.
Which is the most in
Di
Championship.
Matteo had been promoted with West Brom as well.
Yeah, exactly. Di Matteo and all of that.
Yeah.
Dean Smith, who was flying at Brentford, and all of them, well, I say you
can't include Smith,
but do you know what I mean? Those previous 3 all failed at Villa.
Or struggled.
Struggled, sorry. Failed, struggled, do you know what I mean?
I don't-
So it can't be the manager every time.
I'd argue like Bruce didn't fail.
Oh, yeah, sorry, that's the wrong word.
You can argue about the football all day long, but in terms of results, he did not fail with the budget.
So it can't be the manager all the time.
No, but you've got to remember, he's had 3 games.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is...
3 games.
Oh no, I'm not touching Dean Smith yet. I'm just saying after a couple of games.
Yeah, but he's lost 2 now.
But I'm just
Give
saying,
him time.
Yeah,
It's been
yeah,
3
that's
games.
fine. But changing the manager isn't going to
And
make
that's
the
the
instant
point.
fix the
I
fans
totally
think
agree.
of.
Totally agree with you on that.
I've slated QPR since the start of the season, but they've won their last 3 games. They beat Villa.
2 points off the playoffs.
They beat. That's how tight the Championship is. Win a couple of games, you're right up there.
And as I said, after 3 weeks in August, when they lost 7-1 at West Brom, where's the Steve McLaren out brigade now? Where has it gone? Because I didn't hear any or see any Twitter fans from QPR saying anything about Steve McLaren wanting to be sacked now.
No.
No, I think I don't think he's a
it.
bad manager, McLaren. I think he unfortunately is one of those managers which sounds a bit of a cliche.
That England thing will haunt him for a bit.
Yeah, and I just think he struggles with the bigger players. I think he works better in much tighter.
I mean, that job he did at Middlesbrough to get him the England job, it was absolutely sensational.
And everyone forgets like 20. I mean, in terms of Dutch football, if
To
you're
win
not
the league.
Feyenoord, PSV or Ajax, to do anything over there,
and a lot of their additional infrastructure now has come because of that league win and the European campaign that came.
I just think he's one of those managers who
Did they get relegated?
does better at smaller clubs.
I'm not sure.
20 got relegated.
Yeah, but what did he do?
No, not him. I'm saying they got relegated last season. I think.
But the infrastructure of the club, that's there for good.
Yeah. Hull City takeover nearly done. Or was that?
I was going to say, the fans at Trust, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's more or less over
That's
the line.
I'm happy for them because the Aslan family have been an absolute disgrace.
It started so well, but they've been.
Yeah.
It seems
Since
to
they
have
wanted
gone
to change
wrong.
their name to Hull
I think
Tigers.
That was the
since
whole City Tigers thing. Yeah.
Unfortunately, it became when the father got ill, when the son took over. It seemed to have taken a bit of a turn after that. So we can only hope things look upwards for them on the pitch. I think they got a win recently, didn't they? So
Yeah, I don't like them as a club though. They're not well supported enough. But anyway,
You don't like them because they're a rugby club with a half-empty stadium in the Premier League, which
Exactly.
you mentioned before.
There was some controversy in the 5-15 game at Leeds playing Nottingham Forest. Kemar Roof scored an equaliser, which looked like it hit his arm. So is there
not look like it did.
He did. I'm going to say he stuck his arm out. But should there be? Obviously, we're calling for VAR. It has to be VAR. But how high can you go with VAR? Does you need to stick with Premier League, or now the Championship got goal line technology? Do you add VAR?
Let's worry about getting it in the Premier League and working properly in football first, and then we can worry about getting in the lower leagues of football. It's another thing that could kill costs in lower leagues.
But that's costs Forest 2 points.
And I'll be honest, kills things like this. Like, I still think there's not enough. I'm not going to VAR, but what I mean is you take away, you put the VAR in those situations. No one's talking about that. No one's talking about the handball. It's just a free kick, isn't it? It's still. Football is as much about debate as what it is about results.
But the thing is, weirdly, like during the World Cup, we talked about incidents that happened with VAR. That we thought that's still the wrong decision.
Because I understand the World Cup is so much more intense.
I just want to take one thing aside in terms of security and where VAR's at the moment. There was a game in Brazil last week.
The
cup
riot,
game.
we all rioted.
And there were around
was,
20 riot police shielding the referees at the end of the game because of a VAR penalty given at the end. So
I thought was a bit harsh.
It was a bit harsh, but it wasn't a clear and obvious error. And if VAR's at that stage, we need to think about taking it a bit slower for now.
But it's a totally different game from here in England to South America, but I don't think that will happen.
It's a game of football. There's mistakes. Get over it.
Yeah, I was going to say, and at that level, not being rude, that's part of the reason we go to that kind of football is because it's not the Premier League, and you have those things where they're more talking points, it's a bit more gritty, a bit more, relatable.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
I've got 2 more points from the Championship.
Go on.
First one is Swansea, team I predicted to go up on a bit of a surge under Graham Potter. A really good manager from Ostersund. Obviously wasn't really heard of until they went on that Europa League run last year.
Yeah, with Arsenal.
Turned up against Arsenal and won at the Emirates. Really good side, and I am convinced, having watched more and more of them, that they will go up this year. Despite having he's done a similar thing, hasn't he? He's built a young squad of not many reputable names.
Yeah, they look like they got rid of during the summer when they got relegated.
Yeah, they got rid of quite a few of the so-called troublemakers,
the
the bigger earners, the lazier ones at the club.
Was it Reading they beat the other night?
Everyone beats Reading at the moment.
No, it's only because obviously Paul Clements went back, didn't he?
He did then. Yes.
Yeah.
Reading are in the bottom 3.
Yeah, exactly.
Good for you. The last one was Bolton. We've given them a lot of praise after quite a good start earlier in the season. Not won in 5 games now.
I swear, I
genuinely
think we jinx teams.
We jinx them, do we?
I genuinely think we do.
I don't think we're big enough to do that yet.
Lower in the leagues and we'll see.
I praised Macclesfield the other day and then they just got battered.
We'll get on to that. We'll talk about League 2 in a minute. Like we did with your FA Cup draw last week.
Yes, we will.
There was a few League Cup games.
There was some Carabao Cup games.
There was a Championship team playing
League One
League One team. Let's move on to League One. Hey!
Segue. Finally, try and get on right. But I'm not going to talk about Burton Albion, but fair play to Burton Albion.
I'm going to talk about Burton Albion because they did obviously beat a Championship team, Nottingham Forest. It was Clough going back to Nottingham Forest. Well, it was at home, but it was Clough. It was the reunion with Nottingham Forest, and obviously they drew Championship Borough in the quarter-final, so it guarantees an EFL team in the semi-final of the Cup, which I think is a really good thing.
Good point, actually.
Like that.
But moving on to League One in terms of league action, obviously since we were last here, we've actually had 2 or 3 fixture sets depending on how teams have been playing. So on the night we recorded the last podcast, I was going to Luton v Accrington Stanley.
Yeah.
Controversial.
Very controversial game that was.
So obviously
all the wrong reasons.
We can't go into the details of the things off the pitch in much detail.
BBC.
Obviously there have been some issues with BBC Radio Lancashire which have been proven to be unfounded.
Yeah.
And unfortunately that's given the club a bit of a bad reputation in an unjust way. But they've been dealt with in perfectly good statement. They've been investigated thoroughly, and everything's good.
There's still a police investigation.
There is still a police investigation. On the pitch, Luton were absolutely brilliant. It wasn't a brilliant performance.
No.
But they played Accrington at their own game, which not many teams have been able to do this year. And they beat them 4-1. It got to the stage where Accrington, a team that are normally so efficient, so direct, they wind teams up and teams start turning on themselves. And they were the ones at half-time who were turning on people.
Yeah, there was a bit of a handbag moment at half-time.
There was a bit of a handbag moment at half-time, so a lot of the Accrington players and the manager surrounded the referee. A couple of Luton players obviously went to, you can say intervene, but let's be honest, they just wanted to get their word in as well. And then there was a bit of handbags from there, but it came out in the start of the second half, and then Luton wiped the floor for 15 minutes. And that 15 minutes, you could tell Accrington was switched off.
Yeah.
And it's probably it's the only time they've been beaten by 3 goals this season, I think.
Yeah, it's been a long time since.
Yeah, it's been a long time since they lost, I think, by even more than 2. So it's a fantastic result for Luton. It was a bad night for Accrington, and I don't doubt their credentials this season. They went and drew at Portsmouth at the weekend, didn't they? Or home to Portsmouth at the weekend. Yeah. So they're obviously back on form. It was just an off night, but it was soured a bit by off the pitch action, which they weren't particularly gracious in defeat, which was unfortunate.
Yes. Speaking of Luton, Charlie, you've taken penalties before in games.
I've
taken penalties before in games. It wasn't a great ratio, but still, have you ever tried
I just want to intervene. My ratio for penalties is 100% in competitive football.
Really?
Mm-hmm. How many?
About 6 or 7. Used to be a penalty taker as a kid.
Would you have
Penenka it though?
No.
Was it?
Can I just,
Mr. Hilton of Luton
Can
Town?
I just point out that Luton Town were quite supportive of him in terms of his defence after when he said, he made this big thing about the Penenka's finally over its grace so many football grounds. Can I just say that is the most arrogant, egotistical thing I've ever seen. I honestly feel he is the one, as a Luton fan, I think he is the one potential liability this season.
Really?
We're talking about a man on the final day of last season in a dead rubber promotion party at Notts County who got sent off for violent conduct.
Yeah.
In a game that had no malice or intent in it. He's not learned, and he's about 30 now.
He has scored a few of those Penenkas though. Is it 4?
He's
5?
got 4 or 5.
Yes, but he's missed 2 penalties out of his last 5, I think.
Okay. Yeah, even
Yeah.
Nathan Jones after said that wasn't a Panenka
It's
game,
unprofessional.
didn't he? You know, like it was.
It was unprofessional.
But obviously, I don't think he'll take the next. If he does take the next penalty, like Paul Pogba, probably
it's getting
fair
blown
play.
up.
But if
It's a
not,
big
it's
thing
going to
now,
go
to be
someone
honest.
It
else.
should be Collins. Can I mention Wimbledon while we're on that subject?
Yeah, go on.
They're now second bottom. They've lost 6 in a row.
Struggling.
They're really struggling. They had a
Wimbledon.
decent start.
Well, I'll tell you what, they get rolled by Harringay in the FA Cup next week. It could be.
Right,
I
a great
the
Friday night game next week on
Live
the
on the
BBC.
BBC Two via
As I
Cody's
predicted last
Premier
week.
Inn. as we all predicted last week. Did you know there was a derby at the weekend?
I didn't know who.
No. Fleetwood and Blackpool.
Yes, it was
Oh,
a
of
good
course.
game as well.
It was a good 3-2 to Fleetwood, so
Joey Barton wins
good,
again.
good attendance
Doing
as
a
well.
good job, to be fair.
Talking of Joey Barton, he's been a bit more outspoken this week about when players should
A bit
call
more
time.
outspoken.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know what he's like, he's always for it. But it does bring up quite a good discussion actually. What he's saying is that some players around his generation should just know when to call it a day, and he said that he's seen too many, as a manager now, he's seen too many people that he played with still essentially stealing a living.
I want to counter that because we see a lot of players at the age of late 30s, early 40s. So one we're hoping to go and watch in the FA Cup next week at Hitchin Town. Matty Springer used to play for Luton in his late
quality
30s
player.
now. Fantastic player. Do you not think that's a good thing that they still want
Yeah,
to play
no.
in lower league, non-league? They don't just want to give up. They're playing because they love football. They're not playing for the money, and they're helping young people who are at semi-pro, who are young people like we were a few years ago playing at those sort of clubs.
Oh, no,
well, not me
not-
because I wasn't good enough, but you too.
No, I'm not saying I agree with him, but he's saying in his words that they're making fools of themselves. He's obviously been very lucky that he's found a job at clearly a club that he's doing at the minute quite well at.
I'd like to argue if he didn't get an FA ban, he'd still be playing now, and he would have been one who would have played gradually down.
Probably, yeah.
But the thing is, he says when it's time to quit. I did read up somewhere the other day. There's a guy called Paul Bastock. He's age of 48. He's just come out of retirement to play for the team. He I can't remember what league he was playing. He was like longest serving player at one club.
Right.
Retired, and now he's just got back playing for a lower league side.
But I
At the age of
really like
48.
that.
But what's wrong? There's no
I
harm in
think
that.
You do it while you can, But anyway, it's just to be honest. I think Joey Barton is he likes to be controversial. He's not getting the headlines for his football.
Well, he's
He
worked
has
for
to do it
Talk
another
Sport
way.
for that long that happens,
Exactly.
unfortunately. A couple of other strugglers in League One. Scunthorpe are on the slide. Another club who sacked their manager in August.
Oh, for God's
Nick Dawes, they replaced him with Stuart McCall. They have now lost 5 on the bounce. Only 3 points clear of the relegation zone. And do you know what? I don't hope they go down because they're a good club. But it would be a I told you so, wouldn't it? Let's be honest.
And I'm sure they're listening to you.
Well, they should have, and they wouldn't be losing 5 in a row. Plymouth got back-to-back wins.
Yeah, and so did Oxford. So
So there, all you Plymouth Brigade, Plymouth manager out brigade earlier.
Derek Adams.
Derek Adams. That's
That's
what
what I
I'm
said,
thinking.
We'll fill in the blanks for Charlie, don't worry.
I'm not. It's been a long week. Yeah.
I don't think that's the reason, mate. But they're only 1 point off safety now, which is 3 points better off than they were last year.
yeah, and as well as Oxford winning as well. Carl Robinson, which you predicted Oxford to go down, Charlie.
Yeah, no. As I said, that was not based on footballing reasons.
We can't judge it on back-to-back wins. They've had a poor start other than that.
Well, yeah.
And the last point I had on League One, Peterborough back-to-back wins in form again.
Don't care about
And with Luton, Accrington and Coventry's 5 wins in a row now.
Yeah.
They are 5th, 6th and 7th in the league, respectively. 3 promoted sides from last season, and they continue to go up and up. It's brilliant.
And we're off to League Two, and there was a bit of a mistake by the goalkeeper for Forest Green, Mr. Sanchez, and
we wouldn't have known this twice.
no,
We wouldn't have known this twice if Charlie and Press record the first time.
I forgot to push record the whole League 2 section. But anyway.
So there was a long ball from looked like the Exeter right back. I think my player might have got injured. Pumped it long. Goalkeeper tried to control it, went under his foot and rolled into the net. Yeah. So Mr. Sanchez, next time, keep your eye on the ball, as they all say.
Does anyone have a story about a free agent by any chance?
No. Was there a signing in the week?
There was a signing in the week.
Oh, okay.
Former Stoke youth prospect, and I think Man United beforehand, Florent Cavelier,
Yeah, name
joined
rings a bell.
Morecambe. I believe Charlie had this story, and I might have stolen it off him. Don't know where I got that from. He was released from Walsall in the summer in
He
League
was.
One. And what was he doing for the few months in between, Charlie?
Delivering pizzas. To make ends meet.
That's good.
And the one good thing about us recording this, the one good thing about us recording this bit twice is we don't.
Definitely my crappy pun.
Craig had an awful joke, which is not repeated.
Yeah, it's terrible. Do you know, there's nothing better than a last-minute winner, especially if you have to travel 500 odd miles. For Yeovil, the free kick last minute against Carlisle. That's their first win at Carlisle for a very long time, apparently.
It's Yeovil further down Exeter. Is that got to be the longest journey in the Football League? Surely.
Yeah,
Exeter's problem, isn't it?
Yeovil. Why is he?
But either way, I'm just saying it's
Do you want to Google map it?
They're both very long
They're
journeys.
both very long
far
Let's
away.
leave our basic knowledge to that.
They're in the southwest.
Let's not try and be factual. They're both a long way.
We're not very good at affecting things. Or...
North to south, long way.
Yeah. Carlisle, up north. Yeovil, very south. Well done, Yeovil.
One thing I have a lot of joy in saying is MK Dons' winning streak ended
Yay!
in their last game. They'd won 5 in a row at least. I can't remember if it was 6, so I'm just going to say
Who
5 to be
cares?
safe.
Move
But
on.
they drew, and they're still unbeaten, but it was nice for them to not win a game.
No one cares.
I don't mind them. But anyway,
Another close by team that Craig's not a fan of. A team he said he wanted desperately to go down earlier this season, if we remember rightly. Stevenage.
Go on.
8th place now, just a point off the playoffs.
Okay.
Not very happy about that, mate, so we'll move on very quickly.
I'm a Hitchin fan.
Just for 1 week only. The only other thing I had from League 2 was Cheltenham, who have dropped into the bottom 2. 2 points from the last 6 games, struggling a little
But
bit.
they got a cracking result against Arsenal in the week. In the
They did,
trade.
which I will come to in a second.
Oh,
actually.
okay.
Macclesfield, you've mentioned already, obviously, got
Yep.
thumped by 7 at the weekend, and they lost midweek last week, and they lost at the weekend.
Oh, yeah, they got spanked by Northampton Town.
It was 5, not 7.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I'm reading the wrong league. I'm on Maidenhead already. I'm doing a Charlie.
I know which team he's on about.
I'm
here.
on about Maidenhead.
Can I just say, I remember saying before we did this, please make this an easy episode to edit. We're on a tight time schedule. I've got a busy week. And we've gone the
Far
complete
from it,
opposite.
mate.
Yeah, go on, carry on.
Well, we're
jinxed
going to
it.
have a
I
lovely
said-
time playing Pro Evolution Soccer 2 for a couple of hours while you do it. Onto the Checkatrade Trophy. Obviously, you said Cheltenham beat Arsenal 6-2.
Yes.
It was a bit of a weird instance this week because the under-21 teams from the Premier League were playing on the same week as those teams were playing in the Carabao Cup. So Arsenal's one, for instance, a lot of their under-21 players, like Emil Smith-Rowe, etc., Guendouzi, they were all playing in the first...
Guendouzi would be playing.
Yeah, but they were all playing in the first team in the Carabao Cup tie.
Yeah.
Where normally they'd be available for that because they were supposed to be international weekends or 3 weeks for the football teams. So that's why you probably had a few of these standout results. And then on the other end of the spectrum, Chelsea won 5-0 at Plymouth, the under-21s, but they named a fairly experienced team in the League Cup on the same night. So that probably explains that.
Yeah, the 15-year-old came on and scored 2, didn't he?
Yeah, so very good result for them. But guess what? He'll never get a chance in the first team.
No, you won't. And now it's time for Story of the Week. Story of the Week time. I'm going to start with a letter that's been going around the... I know, it's not Blue Peter, no.
No, we're not a planning meeting just before this. It was going to be Charlie's going to start the story of the week.
Sorry, mate.
No, carry on. No,
No,
you commit to it. No, go on. Go on.
Fine. A letter's been sent to clubs in step 3 and step 4 of non-league.
Right.
And it has to do with dressing rooms.
Okay.
But let's get it out of the way early. It's disgusting.
It's absolutely
It's
disgrace.
shocking.
So I'm gonna
Obscene, you might say.
yeah, obscene seems to be the word of the podcast today.
But yeah, no, it's terrible. It's terrible.
So I'm gonna read what it says. The subcommittee of the FA's Alliance Committee met on Monday, the 29th of October, and the following decision was: 1. All step 3/4 clubs are required to have home and away dressing rooms, which are to a measure at least 18 square metres.
I mean...
And the match officials, dressing rooms at 6 square metres.
Can I just say it's baffling on so many levels, isn't
But
it?
here's the thing. By no later than the 31st of March 2019.
So essentially 6 months.
So in theory, we're talking the end of November.
5 months.
We're talking the end of October.
Yeah.
For anyone who, let's even say if you privately own the place that you're playing at, okay? Because a lot of people play out of sort of public areas and they'd have to get planning permission, work with councils.
Well, yeah, there'd be more...
But in
more
terms
plans
of
as well.
privately owned ones, you would effectively have to draw up some plans and start within a month for that to be finished on time.
So it says here, if any club does not comply within requirements as set in point 1 to avoid relegation, that club must deliver it to the league and the FA following documents by the 31st of March 2019. A written undertaking that the club will complete the works by the 31st of July 2019.
So
Planning
got to the
permission.
summer.
Planning permission if required for the works. Proof of football stadium improvement fund or other funding. A completed enforcement contract for the works be carried out showing a completion date of the 31st of July.
So just to clarify, there's no like ring fenced money to help clubs do this.
No, God,
so
no.
it's just that you
have to either get plans or you relegate.
I'm going to make the same response that I did to the Twitter announcement of this, which is, it's the first time I've looked at things. We've obviously had our moans before. It's the first time I've looked at something and thought, that looks like a genuinely deliberate ploy to try and kill off some of non-league football. genuinely looks.
Some
Most clubs cannot compete with that. Most clubs are struggling to make ends meet. Most clubs are spending their days trying to book a fucking referee because the league aren't doing it. And I'm sorry, it's not right.
There's two things for me about that. A, there has to be. I mean, I'm sure between us we can come up with a list of a million things.
Public parks, for God's sake.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. But
you got to remember, step 3 and step 4 is what? Southern League?
Yeah, but even then,
there's still a lot of publicly owned land there.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying like, they're going to be. It's more of a
ground
than what you say like a public.
But look at Dunstable that's close to us, for example. I know they've got a nice facility, but that's a community facility.
Yes.
So what I'm saying is that it's not like you're talking about someone who owns a whole ground to themselves. You know, they're used for different things. Yeah. The point is, for me, there's 1,000,001 things that even between us three here we can come up with that football should be dealing with before.
That's my point.
It's the size
is it
of
a
the
high priority?
And B, what is the actual rationale? Is it something to get more sandwiches in there, or you can get a physio bed? Why does your changing room need to be 80 square metres?
Are they trying to say we're going to have a squad of 21 players?
Can I stop you here?
For 18 square feet?
Why do they want the training, the dressing room to be bigger? When for most clubs to make that happen, they're going to have to make half of the staff that would have filled that dressing room redundant.
Genuinely. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, to pay for it. Yeah, no, I totally agree.
It's absolutely. It's one of the most disgusting things I've seen in non-league football.
So has this gone through? This is
like a formal letter to say it has to be
It's been a formal letter. But to get yourself relegated, like sometimes
is it 2 divisions?
It says here if a club, failure to carry out any necessary works and comply with point 2 above will result in relegation to step 5 of the National League system on completion of.
Yeah, so if you're a step 3 team, then
double. Even if it's because you will automatically go to step 5 no matter who you are. Because step 5 is the top division, you don't need to.
So you get
and we get the same thing again.
Levels,
you know where we mentioned about.
If you're step 4, you get relegated to step 5, which is only one division. But you're step 3, you're going straight down to step 5.
You're getting relegated to the top division where that rule doesn't comply. So we've mentioned before about the artificial pitches if you go up to the Football League, where you can get relegated, if not to the next league where it's sustainable. And we're going to be in a position where clubs will be rejecting promotion to step 4.
Yeah.
Because they're saying it's just messing with the pyramid, and it doesn't. It's another thing that stops the football pyramid being based on performances.
Totally.
But it's just a disgrace.
Some places, some grounds won't have enough space to even fill up an extra couple of feet to.
No.
Which is ridiculous.
Some grounds ain't even got enough money to run a concession stand. You know, they haven't got enough money to do that. Let alone then build an extra changing room.
If they were full time, I would say fine, fair enough. Yeah, but when you're part time club,
it comes back to this: what difference does that make? What difference does a 16 square metre change room have against an 18 square? Like, what is the point of a minimum size changing room? Genuinely, what is the difference? Most teams, even at that level, are going to have what? A manager, a squad of 16, a manager, a coach, possibly a goalkeeping coach if they're lucky, and a physio. So you're talking about 20 people. Why do you need a change room of a minimum size for that?
And a few of those don't need to be in the
Exactly, most of them won't be in the change room.
Look, let's be honest, we're just going to go around in circles with this. So we're just going to say we're completely baffled by it. It is absolutely astonishing, and I think we're all in agreement that it's not a priority for football.
No.
And it's going to harm non-league.
And we'll keep an eye on this coming in season. Any clubs that get relegated from this pathetic ruling.
I've got a feeling we're going to be readdressing this in April.
Yeah. On a brighter note, back to Wales every week. I know it becomes a bit of a thing for Story.
And now it's time for Ynysddu of the Week.
No, I'll keep it short and sweet. But yeah, they won in the previous round of the FA Trophy against a team called Trebenog. Big week for them though, because this week they're playing top of the table. I can never say this.
I was about to say
Bluebirds.
Genuinely, I was about to say you've been practicing your pronunciation, haven't you, after the first one?
ABBA Bluebirds, which isn't the big story because if you go back a few episodes, their under-18 team that didn't exist until,
our
6 weeks ago. They've got their next round of the. Let me get this right. Welsh FA Youth Cup against Llanelli Town on Sunday.
Oh, very good.
So by the time the next episode goes out, we'll have a result for that.
Well,
and then the following week after that, the first team, the senior team, have then got their next round of the Welsh Cup, which we spoke about last week.
So all action in Wales, and they're getting a lot of publicity, which is a really good feel-good story.
We wish them all the best for the cup game.
There was also a nice, really quick short story in Wales. Nice story about it was a referee who support went to watch a game of a team called Caldicott, which is not the one up the road from here. It's a team in Wales, believe it or not.
Okay.
And basically, a fan had a cardiac arrest, and the referee stopped the game, went and basically saved his life with CPR until the ambulance came along. So yeah,
well done.
We wish him a speedy recovery as well.
I've got a feel-good story as well. So my one is from Argentina today.
Oh,
so something a bit out of the box, and then after that, I've got a trivia one. But this one just put a smile on my face. It was a good story. There was today the winners of the first Copa America organised by the Argentine Talabaca. Okay,
what's that?
Whoa.
Say that again.
This is
the Argentine Talabaca.
It's a really feel-good story, actually. It's a civil association to fight discrimination and support integration for people with physical disabilities. So it's for people who suffer with dwarfism and similar issues, okay? So it featured teams from Morocco, Brazil, Bolivia, the US, Argentina. Paraguay were the winners, remarkably. And Argentina were obviously the hosts for the first one. But it's the first tournament that we sort of recognise as a huge international tournament. The Copa America, it's a big name. It's the first one of its kind in the world in this sort of format. And the Civil Association organised it. It was a brilliant success. There was a good attendance. And I just thought it was a really great thing.
No, I think, it's inclusive, isn't it?
There's a few little clips of it on Twitter and things like that. The standard's actually quite good. It's quite entertaining to watch. And I'd urge anyone to go and have a little look at it. My other story is simply titled Do the Neymar. Don't know if you've seen that this week.
What's that? No,
oh, God.
Obviously, we're at the time of the year of recording. We are in between Halloween and Firework Night. Remember the 5th of November, yes. Good. It's the time of the year where, taking safety first, there's often a lot of alerts and announcements by police and fire services.
Don't follow Mario Balotelli.
No. It's basically the opposite to that. So it's a lot of alerts and announcements about staying safe around fire and fireworks and things like that. So, Dublin firemen have recommended and sent out steps on Twitter in how to deal with things if you accidentally set on...
I can see where this is going now.
See if you accidentally set on fire, how to do it. Now, obviously...
I love this.
Obviously, they just normally put out a standard announcement.
Yeah, like stop, drop, roll.
Stop, drop and roll, which is essentially what this is.
Stop, drop and do it.
Obviously, not many people read it because it's a boring announcement and not many people follow the Dublin Fire Brigade. Okay, so what they've done is put up a fairly popular image and little clip of Neymar in the World Cup where he was famously on the floor for 14 minutes and a selection of highlights from that to recommend hitting the deck in order to avoid Halloween mishaps. And on a genuine positive note, it had the most views and likes of any tweet ever by any fire service in the UK around this time of the year.
I suppose it is. And the thing is, you have to be relatable, don't you? And
to younger genuinely, we take aside all the funness, and I'm not a fan of Neymar, and it's something that we talked about in the World Cup as annoying us. It's quite funny, but it is genuinely going to help people as well. So it's going to get the message out, and I just thought it was a good story, and it made me laugh.
Good.
Very good.
Moving on to the National League, and we can talk about Maidenhead now because that's the team we're about.
Did they lose by 7?
They've had
I remember vaguely hearing.
They've had a terrible few days. They lost 6-0 to Fylde at home, and then they lost 7-0 away at Havant and Waterloo.
Havant and Waterlooville. No, they've I think they're only 2 points off of getting out of the relegation zone now. Havant and Waterlooville.
So they've both had red cards, both games. The goalkeeper got sent off on Tuesday and they didn't have a sub-goalkeeper.
Oh, that's a schoolboy error, not having a keeper on the bench. No, I suppose it is.
So it was only 2.5 times.
On the other end of one of those games, AFC Fylde are in the playoff places now. They're unbeaten in 9 in the league, so they're having a good little spell.
Have you seen, I know it sounds an odd thing to say, have you seen some of their goals this season?
Oh,
they've got that Danny Rowe up.
Honestly, some of those strikes are incredible.
There's some great goals from the week against Maidenhead. Some cracking goals.
And leading on to that, we saw most of those goals on the National League highlights show.
On BT Sport.
They gave a bit of coverage. The first game was Chesterfield's 5th draw in a row. And they equalised in the last minute with Jonathan Smith, former Luton Town player, who we mentioned a few episodes ago could be a good player for them to help turn around their season. The highlights show on BT Sport called him Jordan. Just wanted to point
I did hear that. I was like, that's wrong.
The thing is, I don't have BT Sport, so I have to wait for it to go on that free sports. I think it might be on Thursday night.
Well, you can get on YouTube.
It also goes on YouTube half an hour later.
Oh, does it really? I genuinely never knew that.
Yeah, it goes on YouTube. Okay. That's where I watch
it every Friday now.
But yeah, great following. By the way, just look at the highlights from that game. It's great following from Wrexham fans. Completely sold out their way, and it was great.
And at the top end of the National League, Wrexham and Salford inseparable.
Yeah, Salford a great 3-1 win at Barnet.
Yeah. And I know we take aside our jokes about what I've said about Salford and the fact that
no
one agreed with me and Wrexham going up, but between the three of us, they're the two teams we predicted to win the league.
It's going to be a very...
We're proving to have a bit of knowledge.
Pouring and not a million miles off.
It's going to be very tight. I think it's going to be...
And Harrogate are right up there still, and Fylde now a catch.
Harrogate lost.
Still waiting for Solihull Moors to... hopefully hit the bottom 3 with Tim Flowers.
So you'll be watching Solihull. Well, it looks like you're going to be watching Solihull Moors.
We're going to be seeing them next week. We're going to do a scout report.
We're going to stand next to Tim Flowers.
You can shout abuse at Tim Howard.
Tim Flowers. But speaking of Tim Howard, vital wins for Dagenham and Redbridge
at Dover.
And
was Tim Howard there?
No,
well, the season's over now. The season's over.
Are they not in the playoffs that starts, or
I don't think that.
Who knows? Who cares about the?
But Braintree as well. They also got a valuable win in the week as well.
Braintree, they won 2 in a row.
Yeah.
They beat, obviously, Dover, as you mentioned, but they also beat Bromley.
Yeah.
Dover changed their manager to Andy Hessentyler.
Oh, yes.
Has it worked out for them? No, it hasn't. Be careful what you wish for.
It's only been a couple of games.
It has.
Remember that.
But they're not going to get out of it. They're starting to get marooned. They were relegation 6-pointers. They were playing Braintree and Dagenham. You can't afford to lose those games at this stage. The other team, Hartlepool, no winning 3, and they're sliding out of the playoffs and they're going down towards mid-table now.
Don't worry about
I predicted them to go down. They're definitely not going to do that. And I'm glad, because they're a good club. I didn't want them to go down. But they just seem to be sliding, and I don't think that top 7 charge is going to last.
No. On to the National League North, and surely they were, before we started recorded this last week's podcast, they were unbeaten.
Mm-hmm.
But now, last time, they lost 2 in a row. They lost to Bradford Park Avenue and to Stockport.
They haven't won a game since David Platt visited there and didn't win anything.
Well, we now know why it's David Platt's fault. Probably hiding in the subway.
The Nuneaton Borough saga continues.
We have to talk about it, don't we?
So they've now closed their academy. So obviously they were mentioned a few weeks ago, weren't they? In the
we've talked about it plenty of times. Go back and listen to them so we don't recover.
Yeah, but in a nutshell, they closed the academy. It's just complete.
I don't know if you guys said it, but there was a pensioner that offered.
Yeah, 500 quid,
yeah.
and they turned it down because they weren't actually too sure if they could even take the money in the sense of if they would get a return or anything like that. But
I thought it was a nice gesture from the pensioners.
Oh, it's a nice gesture, but the fact that they couldn't even take that is just absurd.
I wanted to mention Chester.
Yes.
Obviously quite a big side in that league, or a reputable name at least. Unbeaten in 8 after a really shocking start. We mentioned them, I think, in the first episode of this
they had
series.
to obviously kill a few games off because of the ground was a bit damaged from the weather.
But they lost 8-1 on the opening day of the season against Blythe, and since then they have started to recover, and 8 unbeaten, they're flying up the league now, so good luck to them. They're a good side. We'd like to see them back in the National League. I think I speak for all of us in saying that. But you've got to earn it on the pitch.
Not many teams can go up, that's the problem.
Yes. On the other end of the scale, in form terms, we've got 2 teams. Hereford.
Yeah.
Another team that changed their manager, brought in a head of football, and he brought in his outside-the-box manager that he's worked with for a long time.
I think it's been 4 clubs now you've mentioned that you're still...
And all of them I've mentioned because they're in bad form or haven't won since the changes, of which Hereford are another, only 2 points clear of the relegation zone.
It's that head of football, man. He's trying to find those miters.
I believe I believe they sacked Richard Beadle when they were either 11th or 12th in the league, and they're now 19th, 2 points clear of the relegation zone.
It was never ever going to.
And the statement was so unprofessional, and they're a good club. I wanted to see them back in the National League, but I think they're going to suffer for that change. I think it's a huge mistake.
Yeah, totally.
The other one is Alfreton. They drew at FC United Stop the Rot. They had 5 defeats in a row before that, so well done to them for getting a point.
It's like never won before or something. I like Alfreton, it's a nice club. On to the National League South, and there's good news for Deutsche Hamlet. They are moving back to their old ground, Champion Hill.
Yeah. Where are they playing out of them?
They were playing at Tooting and Mitcham's ground,
right,
which is not far apparently.
Nice place, by the way.
Yeah. So they're going to move back into next month or so. This was helped by the owners. The owners kicked them out last season because payments. They were delaying payments, which is absolute horseshit.
Can I just say, myself and Charlie, for once, are 2 not causing any controversy. We do not attribute ourselves to those comments.
But the UK Sports Minister, well, former now by the time this goes, Tracy Crouch, helped out to get them back into Champion Hill.
Right.
Well, she's not there anymore, but I think it's excellent news for Deutsche Hamlet. So they need to do up the ground to meet certain requirements, and then they'll be back playing in a month.
But they've got a big following, and they're a club. Which is great. They need a season or 2 of steadiness. They need to stay up this year, most importantly, and then create a steady growth. But they're a club with the following they've got that could be one like that sort of Forest Green or Fleetwood to make noise eventually, and doing it properly rather than unsustainably, which is a good thing.
Yeah, happy for them.
Other news in the National League South: Concord are into the top 7. They're lacking consistency, but they've got some really good players.
They're flying now, aren't they?
Hey! Oh, God. Chief among which is Jack Midson, if I can actually talk about the bloody football from it. Jack Midson's obviously a good National League striker. He's been there for years.
Player, yeah.
We're going to have to talk for 5 minutes because Charlie's out on this.
Out.
He's in the corner, rocking away. But yeah, Jack Midson's been on fire. Concord are doing well, and they're into the playoff places.
He was last season.
I think so, yeah.
He's got a good engine, isn't he? That's
can I just apologise on behalf of the Honest Football Podcast for Charlie Bett's joke?
Carry on.
Moving on to Welling, who finally lost the game. They'd been unbeaten for quite a while.
They're second, didn't they? They
were
doing really well.
They were joint with Billericay. They lost that game to full 3 points behind, and they lost to St Albans, local to us, obviously.
St Albans are in the playoffs now, but team close to my heart in East Thurrock, unfortunately,
Yes.
they were 2 up that Billericay and couldn't hold on and lost 3.
They gave him a bloody good game, though.
Yeah, I just want to say unlucky, guys.
Very nice indeed. I've got a couple of other things from the National League South. If you're wondering why Charlie Betts hadn't talked in this episode, it's just because he's sitting laughing the whole time. Gloucester are on the slide since losing their manager to Hereford. One that's not their fault, but obviously they haven't been able. They put 2 of their long-serving players in charge and it hasn't worked out for them. And the last one from midweek, I believe it was Weston-super-Mare on Tuesday night held Torquay to a draw.
Oh, I think there was a bit of crowd trouble, I heard.
There was a bit of crowd trouble. We're not going to get into that. There's investigations going on and all sorts. But Weston-super-Mare, just their 3rd point of the season. Obviously, we mentioned last week they're doing quite well in the FA Cup.
Yeah, first round.
But in the league, they still haven't won a game.
No. Other non-league news, I've got another club that's going to move to a new ground, and that is Romford FC, who are currently playing in the Bostik League North Division, currently 11th.
Right.
Okay.
But since they reformed 27 odd years ago, they've been switching grounds and that. But finally, they've been given the go-ahead to build their own ground in their own borough, which is excellent news.
Craig's only dropping this story in because there is a YouTube video of him playing against Romford FC. So
Yeah, and that was played at Avery's Millfield. Which
So
is the old
whatever you
ground.
do, don't go and watch that.
But that video is not that heavy. But I'm happy for them. They are actually a really nice club, and I wish them all the best.
I wanted to mention one thing about another league we covered in our prediction show at the start of the season, which was Scotland.
Yes.
There were we've mentioned this before briefly. There were the semi-finals of the League Cup this weekend.
Yeah.
The semi-finals on what I believe was the 28th of October, and the final is before Christmas.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
isn't
yeah,
it?
it's going to say.
But they start that in like
They
July.
start in
don't
July,
they?
yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you mean about
They
that?
have a league before the season. You should not be in the final of a cup competition
That is
in
pretty
the
bad,
first half
I've
of the
got
year.
to say.
I'm very sorry, Craig, but I disagree
The
with
thing
you.
is, I know where obviously we live in Luton, but having cup finals in March feels weird.
but it's
Even though I know we had obviously the Carabao Cups in February, but like for
They
But
should be at the
I'll
end.
be honest, this sounds
Should be
silly,
at the
but
end.
having a cup final, later on in the season, it actually keeps people interested. If you're a team that's mid-table, but you're on a good cup run, the prospect of getting to a final, it keeps people coming to watch.
So
it
let's
keeps
see.
players interested. If you're a mid-table team already and you're
Yeah.
probably not going to go up, playing a final in October or something, what have you then got to play for after that?
So, like, for example, say Aberdeen fall away in the league. I'm not saying they will, but say they do. They're in a position where there won't be any interest in them after
No,
Christmas
exactly.
once they've played
No,
that
no.
final. But what I wanted to point out from those 2 games was the Old Firm teams, which I have no problem with. I'm completely ambivalent between the 2 sides. I have no problem with either one of them. But both sides were guilty of quite bad diving. Umar
He's going up to
Sadiq.
Scotland.
Morelos was not available. So
He's terrible at Umar Sadiq.
Umar Sadiq played up front. He was awful generally as a footballer, but he committed, and I'm going to use one of your favourite words, one of the most obscene dives I have ever seen. It was absolutely baffling, and I'd urge anyone, I'm sure if you go to YouTube and type in Umar Sadiq dive, you'll see it. It was horrendous. There were a few in the Celtic game as well, and a little bit of crowd trouble in Scottish football over the week, which we're not going to talk about.
Disgrace.
But I just wanted to get in Umar Sadiq's dive.
No. And also, last thing in the Northern Irish Football League, big game, Ballymena Glenarvan.
Oh.
Which, if I assume this is going out Saturday morning, would have been played last night. It's first versus third.
Normally we
Yeah.
would have been watching while recording, which
Yeah.
would have meant the episode would have been a lot worse, because last time we did it, it was fucking atrocious.
There'll be a lot of cheering with
But
that.
no, it's still all to play for Northern Ireland, which makes a change, because to be honest, normally the 2 teams run away with it, even by November, there's 2 clear.
It's good to see.
Yeah,
It's very
yeah.
close at the top.
But yeah.
Question of the day time, and it is currently Cody 4, Charlie Betts 2. Now, I'm just going to go. I've been slated recently by these questions, so to make it, I'm going to dumb it down for you two because otherwise this is going to take forever.
Well, the viewers will know what's going on from now, because if myself and Charlie start to sound bored at this point, they'll know that we're on the 2nd or 3rd take, don't they? As it stands, we're on take 1.
So today's question is: how many times all 3 promoted sides from the Championship to the Premier League have survived?
Please say this is multiple choice.
So, right, oh God, well, you're making long questions, right? What
So-
happened to just like who scored in this?
No,
Is it
I was
multiple?
going to do that.
Is it
and I
multiple
thought-
choice?
No, I'm
No.
not doing multiple choice.
Right, so let's say it again. How many times?
How many
have
times
the Championship
all three
sides-
all three promoted sides from the Championship have survived in the Premier League?
when it's been called the Championship?
Not since the Premier League era.
So 25 years
So-
essentially.
Yeah. So
Jeez.
yeah,
I'm going to say
all 3 they all survived the next season.
I'm going to say less than we think, probably. I don't know whether to go for... I'm somewhere between 4 and 6 is what I'm thinking.
Okay,
So
what choose then?
I don't want to split the middle and go for 5, so I don't think it's going to be many. I'm going to go for 4.
Okay, Charlie?
Out of 25 years.
Yeah, how many times?
2.
Ooh.
So we've both gone for the same thing, very low. I bet
You
you wanted one of us to make ourselves look like an idiot and go 15, didn't you?
No. You both were close. But the answer is 3. So, 2001-2002 season, Fulham, Blackburn and Bolton.
That's the only one I actually knew. That season.
2011-12, QPR, Norwich and Swansea all survived.
Right.
And
Miracle
last season, Newcastle, Huddersfield and Brighton all survived.
Oh, of course they did.
Oh,
So,
Right, so you need to do your other question as a tiebreaker then.
I will, yeah, alright, fine. So,
I mean, I was just going to have we both got it wrong, so he doesn't have to think of another question for
So
next
I'm
week.
gonna-
No.
It'd be more so you edit
we
me.
need a point. Come on.
so
Well, you need a point.
Yeah, exactly. This is one more week where I
Right.
don't get a point if I...
okay. Reading won the championship in 2005-06 with
What
a
a
record
season.
106 points.
Yeah.
But who came second?
Oh. No, I looked at this. I only looked at this because that secret football book that I read, who is supposedly Dave Kitson.
Very good striker.
Yeah, very
for
good
Reading.
striker.
Was it him and Leroy Lita, wasn't it? That went in the promotion season. And then before Shane
Oh,
Long and
Shane
Noel
was-
Hunt came in. Or who the other one was.
Was it Cardiff
Kevin
City?
Doyle was the...
Was it Cardiff
Oh, it's
City?
too early for Cardiff. 05, 06. Who would have been up just after that? Oh, I know Wigan was the year before, I think, or 2 years before.
This is longer than the first question.
I don't know who to go for, mate, because
Oh,
every time I think
no.
of it, I know it's not them. I'm trying to think of teams that were up around that
There's going to be a
region.
lot of editing in there.
There is going to be a lot of editing here. And I'm deliberately stringing it out and talking all the way through, so Charlie has to...
Oh,
He's gone
God.
for Cardiff.
I've gone for Cardiff too
Gone
early.
for Cardiff, you did.
Far too early.
Cody, you have to name a team.
Oh,
Very
I
quickly.
don't know.
5.
Derby County.
You're both wrong.
No, that was the year after. It was 06, 07
Hang on. Right.
So this team finished second.
Yeah.
Automatically promoted.
05. I can only think of the year either side, because 04, 05 was West Ham that came up in the playoffs. And 06, 07 Derby came up, but then went down with the record low points. 06, 07. Is this Sunderland?
No.
I have no
Sunderland
idea.
were in the Premier League that season in 05-06.
06. Oh yeah, that's the year they went down, wasn't it? Sorry,
Yeah,
again
no.
I'm thinking of the year after.
The team is Sheffield United.
Oh, it was Warnock.
of course,
And
yes.
then the Tevez the year
Tevez.
after.
That's what I'm waiting for Charlie. How has he not got
Oh.
this? Yeah, Sheffield United came second on 92 points.
Yeah,
I don't remember that. 'cause
Which
I was too busy sobbing after Lionel Scaloni. That was the year
It's got to be the most points for second, is it?
It's the biggest point gap between
Biggest
first
point
and
gap?
second.
So not only has Charlie blown his second chance of getting a
Yeah.
point in this episode, it was a West Ham related question, and he's given himself 10 more minutes of
I know.
editing to do.
Yeah, so
And I gave it the big one about the book.
you did.
Oh.
So unfortunately, it is still Cody
Where on
for
earth did I get Cardiff from?
What a shame Dave Kitson didn't manage talk about who came
Cardiff
second that
didn't-
season.
Well, it's big.
Cardiff
Clearly
were nowhere
not him.
near it.
No, I know.
But-
Panicked. I peaked early on that.
Cody for Charlie 2. Find out next week if Charlie can still get another question wrong. And that's it for today's episode. It's been shambolic as usual, but question day was perfect this time.
It's a perfect ending to the episode. It's a shame we're not on camera. Charlie has his head in his hands because it's been that much of a grind for him.
It's the worst episode I've ever had.
He's had a
And I've had
time.
some shocking ones before this, but anyway.
He's had a tired week.
So thanks for listening. We hope you enjoy it, even though Charlie didn't.
Join us again Tuesday for another midweek rant, and this one will be about second place trophies. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And join us next time on the Honest Football Podcast.